Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Monday, May 11th. How's everybody doing? Quiet day today. It is Monday, so let me remind you, I put out the new issue of MMT Trader. You can go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com, sign up for a 30-day free trial. Get the report, folks. There's a lot of stuff in it. As you know, I bring you this information every day, but subscribers get a lot more. There is a lot more in this report. All right, not a lot to talk about today. It was a quiet day. Dow gave back some of Friday's gain. Friday, I mean, if you're bearish on this market, if you are short this market, I could just imagine the reaction of those bears and the short sellers on Friday when they saw this horrific jobs number, a 20 million loss of jobs, and the market went up 500 points. Now, number one, that just seems like craziness to most people, and I'm sure it seems crazy and frustrating, and it angered the short sellers to no end. But also, if you don't have experience as a trader, I've been doing this for 40 years, then people think like, oh, there's a headline or there's a piece of economic data and then the market is going to react, they think, in a logical way at that precise moment. Folks, that's just not how it works. And I've had people who say, well, what do I need MMT for? Or what do I need the understandings that you bring to the table? I could just trade off of the headlines. And I say, okay, you know what? Go do that. Good luck to you. But I'm sure the shorts are angry. And look, I've been telling you, and this goes back weeks and weeks, the market crash in March discounted or reflected at that time what we are seeing right now in the economy in terms of these really bad numbers. The market's looking forward. Now, I never say the market is a perfect predictor of the future. A lot of people believe 100% in the market's ability to predict the future. But look, it is wrong often. I don't think this is one of those times. I think, as I said before, following that crash, new variables entered the equation. That was unprecedented amounts of fiscal support, the monetary measures by the Fed, at least to calm the financial markets, and then now we are seeing the reopening of the economy. We are seeing things such as gasoline demand pick up, crude oil exports picking up. So there are what I like to call the green shoots, or evidence of some improvement. I believe I spoke on Friday of the fact that tax deposits to the Treasury have stopped contracting. Okay, there was a deep plunge, partially because tax filings were pushed back to July, and also because the economy experienced such a deep contraction. But that collapse in tax deposits has leveled off, so that's good news. But I've been all through that. I still think the market is going higher. There's a lot of bearish sentiment. What we need to be on the lookout for is, first and foremost, if we see a new or a renewed spike in virus cases that leads to more lockdowns, that would be really bad. If we see a curtailment or a slowdown in fiscal support or a cut in the fiscal support, that would be bad. Okay, so these are some of the things that we need to look for. But I want to talk about something else. MMT now has been out there in the mainstream. It's been in the media. It's been talked about now for the last few years. And you pretty much can't go to any financial blog or news provider without reading something about MMT. So it's no longer in the fringes as it was when I first got involved with it in 2001, and for many years after that. I was one of the first publicly, when I worked at Fox News. This is going back to 2003. I was on air regularly talking about the concepts and understandings of MMT. And, back then, nobody ever heard of it. Every time I talked about, the government as a currency issuer as opposed to a currency user, and the policy space that affords, that was laughed at, that was derided. Now MMT is everywhere, which makes it kind of maddening and comical at the same time when I hear somebody like Rand Paul. And by the way, full disclosure, I happen to like Rand Paul on his foreign policy stance. But, just the other day, Rand Paul making a statement that, and this was, I think with respect to aid to the states, or maybe was his comments just with regard to a new stimulus bill, just coming flat out and saying, we have no money, we are out of money. Now, in the context of the amount of information and new understanding and light that has been shed on MMT and how the monetary system operates, for somebody to say that now, it just sounds comical and ridiculous. Now, if you want to say, hey, the use of fiscal policy, printing money, if you want to call it that, the expanded policy space that a sovereign currency issuing nation like the United States has, engaging in that might cause inflation or something bad, that's fine. We could have that conversation. We could have that discussion. You would be wrong, most likely, on that, because we have seen an enormous amount, unprecedented amount of fiscal support and monetary stimulus, if you want to call it that. And, we have negative inflation, we have deflation. But at least you can have that argument, you can have that discussion. But to come out and say, now, with all the everything that has been written about this, everything that has been exposed with regard to the way the government spends, to come out and say, and by the way, just having to be able to look at the recent increase in spending that just came as a product of decree by the Congress, to come out and say now, we have no money, we are out of money. Oh, and he went on to even say, we are literally taking the money from the Chinese. Now that is just an absurd comment. It should be, at this point in time, a comment that is universally laughed at. I was shocked that he is, for somebody to stick with this line of logic, if you want to call it that, with this line of commentary, is somebody who is just absolutely wedded to an ideological point of view that is never going to change regardless of what the facts are. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are critical of MMT, and by the way, I think those people, the vast majority of them, basically use straw man arguments, and they don't really understand MMT, and they don't, they have never really spoken clearly about the understandings of MMT. They just attack it. But even those people would not make a statement like Rand Paul made. We're out of money. We're taking the money from the Chinese. I mean, at this point in time, can we just seriously drop that? I mean, can we let that go? If you want to have an argument or a discussion about whether or not these policies would create inflation, fine. We can have that argument. That is a legitimate argument. You could present your points. I could present my points. But let's not make statements like, we have no money. We have run out of money. We're taking dollars from the Chinese, as if the Chinese are the issuers of the US dollar. I mean, that is just completely ridiculous. I'm shocked. I have to say, I was shocked when I heard that come out of his mouth, because at this point in time, seriously, we shouldn't be hearing things like that. The discussion should move past, we're out of money. I mean, that is just absolutely, after trillions upon trillions that have just been injected into the economy out of thin air, to hear somebody say we are out of money is just absolutely, completely ridiculous. So please, let's stop that. Rand Paul, come on. I know you're smarter than that. You're a physician. You're an educated guy. I like your position on foreign policy, but that's just junk. That's just ideological nonsense. That's mythology. That's dogma. That is, you're stating your opinion as if it is fact. It is just not a fact whatsoever, and you know better than that. Anyway, that's all I had to say on that. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.